I'm really excited to talk with you all tonight about applying for your student visa to the United States. And thank you all so much for tuning in with us tonight. So with that, let's go ahead and kick things off and get started. Another quick note to our audience is that I'm giving this presentation on April 24th, 2019. So if you are viewing this in the future, if you're viewing a recorded version, just make sure that you're going online to get the most up-to-date information in case any policies have changed. And you'll want to do that by visiting travel.state.gov and ustraveldocs.com. I know we'll get a lot of questions tonight. I'm really excited for all of them. I won't be able to take all of them, but we'll do our best to cover as much ground as we can in an hour and select the most relevant questions for the entire group. Another note is that I'm based here in Mumbai. I work at our consulate here, and so I will be focusing mostly on our process in Mumbai, which is largely the same as our process. But note that if you are applying in especially a different country, you'll want to also research more in-depth online on that particular embassy's website too, for any additional information that may be helpful to you. The long story short is that it takes a long time to apply to a U.S. university. And I know this because I did it too. So I'm speaking from experience here. For those of you who are in the earlier stages, I think this is helpful to know because it helps to know how long it takes and how early you should get going on really each step. So we'll keep talking about that tonight, how important it is to prepare as early in advance for each stage as you possibly can. The steps in brief are first to research what school you would like to go to. You can do this with some different resources online. I have some links, websites for those who are interested as well. Next is applying to your schools. It's doing your pre-applications, your test taking, meeting all of your deadlines, meeting a school's financial aid deadline if they have a different deadline as well. Then later on, about 6 months out, you look at your admissions decisions, you hear back from universities. And then the last step, which we'll focus on mostly tonight, is applying for that student visa. So that happens about 3 months out from when you start school. So that's a broad overview of the process. I think, again, the main message here is to start early. Give yourself lots of time to do each of these steps. Things like research, writing those applications, finalizing logistics to go to school, all take time. So the earlier to start, the better. And while we're going to shift now into talking about student visas, I'm happy to answer questions on the process earlier on too. Shifting over to applying for your student visa. First, it is easier than you think, as long as you have prepared properly. So I just gave you this overview, right, of the whole process. When you're going to apply for your student visa, you've already done all of these other steps. You've looked at all of your universities, you've done your applications, your test taking, you've thought about how am I going to apply for school? What sort of scholarships or loans do I need? So this really is our main message on applying for your student visa, is that at this point, this is the last part of the process, and as long as you have sufficiently prepared, this is the easiest part of the process. The United States welcomes legitimate student travelers from around the world. And like I said earlier, there was a 5.4% increase in Indian students studying in the US the last academic year. So our number of students from India is on the rise. Very exciting. Now let's shift into steps to get your student visa. The visa application process has a couple of different steps. And this is what I really want to make sure we get any questions about that you have tonight. So be thinking about your questions as I go through this application process and start to put them on our board as well. The first step in the visa application process, so this is step A in the slide, is to request an I-20 from your university. This happens right after you select what university that you would like to go to. So I recommend right when you have selected that decision, you know this is the university you will be applying to start this process to get your I-20. To do this, you will contact the same international student office that you have already been coordinating with at that point. You will request the I-20 from your designated school official or your DSO. The DSO is a great resource. This is the same person at your university that you will coordinate with to ask lots of different questions. Anything about your student experience and beyond, really. Your DSO helps you with questions about working on campus, applying for a driver's license, changing your major or program. This is the person you contact if you're transferring schools or taking a break from school. So this is the person you will contact for step A for the I-20, but it's the same person that you'll continue to be in touch with as you go through your program. The I-20 is a little bit different at different schools, so make sure that you're in touch with your school about how specifically to get that I-20. And it can be a little bit different depending on what school. But in general, you'll be coordinating with that international student office. Now our next step, we're looking at our process, is step B, to complete your DS-16-0. And actually, to backtrack a teeny bit, back to step A, on your I-20, you'll receive an official copy in the mail, and this is the copy that you will bring with you to your student interview. In the I-20, you'll want to make sure that your start date for school is correct. So check that date on the form. That's the overview for the I-20, and let me know if you've got questions on that. After you have your I-20, step B is to complete your DS-16-0. This is available on the two links that are here on the slide. So at seac.state.gov/seac, and on that link, there's actually no www. That's a side note. On that first link, you will go to the form under non-immigrant visas to complete your DS-16-0. You will also create a US Travel Docs profile. This is that second link on step B. On that link on ustraveldocs.com, you will choose your location and then create account. So you'll do both of these steps to complete your DS-16-0. Step C is to pay your DS-16-0 fee. So this is done in the ways outlined on the slide, so either electric fund transfer, mobile phone, or on some of the branches mentioned there, Axis or Citibank branches. And the DS-16-0 fee is $160. To pay this, that's $160 US. To pay this, you'll go at ustraveldocs.com. That second link on slide B. So once you've completed steps A through C, we'll move to step D of your visa application process, which is scheduling your visa appointments. The first appointment will be at the Visa Application Center, or the VAC. At the VAC, this is where you'll have your photo taken and your biometrics taken. It's your fingerprints on our machines. Your appointment at the VAC cannot be more than 50 days before your scheduled interview date. So it has to be within that range, 50 days before your interview date. When you go to the VAC, you will bring your passport and your DS-16-0, as we just talked about. And you'll schedule your second appointment as well, which is your visa interview, at the embassy or consulate. You're welcome to apply to any of our missions within India, any of the embassy or consulate, and the website will help direct you to the location nearest to you. You'll schedule both appointments on ustraveldocs.com, which will help you book first your embassy appointment and then the VAC appointment after. So first, the embassy appointment will be booked online, and then online you will book the VAC appointment. But when you go to the appointments, the VAC appointment happens first to take your biometrics before your interview at the embassy or the consulate. The last step in this process is to pay your SEVIS fee. You'll do this by going to the link on the slide, fmjfee.com. On the FMJ fee website, you will click Pay I-901 fee. You'll click that button on the slide. This fee is $200 for our F1 and M1 applicants, $180 for our J1 applicants, and $0 for our spouses and dependents. Your SEVIS fee is a unique number that will stay with you, even if you adjust to OPT or transfer schools. So the SEVIS fee, again, that stays with you even if you change your school. Okay, so now talking about your visa interview. This is another really important part of the process. But again, I want to repeat that same message from earlier. At this point, you've done all of the preparation. You've thought about where you want to go, why you want to go there, how you would like to pay. And so I think my main message is to not be nervous at your visa application interview. Be ready to talk for about 2 to 3 minutes. So it's a pretty brief interview. And when you come to the interview, you will bring your passport and that I-20 that we just talked about. I think it's helpful to talk about a little bit of what to expect on the day of. So when you go in for your visa interview, you can expect that it will take some time to wait. And at the actual embassy or consulate, no technology or phones are permitted in. So that's something to think about. Before, people have asked me, what should I wear or what should I bring? I think it's just most important for you to be comfortable at your visa interview and to keep that no technology piece of it in mind. So you'll want to plan out logistics for any travel, any coordination that you need. On the actual forms and what sort of documents that you need to bring. I saw that we had a couple of people ask this already online. So the actual forms that you'll need, of course, you will need your physical passport. That has to be valid. So you'll want to check your start date in your passport. We suggest that you bring your DS-16-0 confirmation page, a valid I-20 form, and proof of your SEVIS fee payment. So that's all that's required for you to bring in. No additional documentation is required, which is really helpful to know. In the interview, what will the officer ask you about? The officer will ask you questions that focus on the 3 areas here in the slide. So this is what you need to be prepared to answer questions about. First, are you sufficiently prepared for your education? The officer will be looking to see if you have a study plan, how you have been preparing for school. You should know where this school fits into your professional development. It's that planning phase of the process that we talked about. How have you been preparing for school, and where does it fit into your career plans? The second area to really think about is how do you plan to pay for your education and expenses? As we all know, paying for school is very serious business. As someone who went to college It's a big undertaking to go to university. And of course, it's something you have to think about your logistics. How, will you pay for school? Students often ask me, what does this look like? What is the officer looking for? And there's no one way that's correct to pay for school. What the officer is looking for is that you have a financial plan, that you have a plan to pay for your school, that you have appropriate funding and resources to do this. On this point, it's very important to emphasize to always be honest with the visa officer. It's very important to always tell the truth in the visa interview on the whole. In addition to the finances, you should have a plan to use your student visa appropriately. This looks like, what would you like to do during your degree? What do you want to do after you graduate? Where does this fit into your career plans? So I'll answer more questions about these later. I'm sure we have a lot of questions about the interview, but that's the big picture of it. The main takeaways for the interview are just be ready to talk comfortably and honestly, be able to talk about those 3 areas outlined in the slide. Now, what happens if your visa is approved? A little bit more on the application process. So if your visa is approved, the officer will retain your passport. You will then get an email or an SMS telling you that your passport is ready in about 3 to 5 business days. You can also check online at ustraveldocs.com where your visa is at in the process, in the printing process. Some dates to remember. First-time student applications should not schedule their interview date to be more than 120 days before the program's start date. So if you are looking to start this fall, which from our poll looks like most of you are, we're coming close up to that 120 days. So that's when you can start to schedule your visa interview for. Another important date is that anyone traveling for the first time on a student visa will not be admitted to the US more than 30 days before that start date. So that's when you can actually travel once you have your visa. I'm going to leave open a slide here with additional resources and information for you. There's that US Travel Docs website again, that helps with booking your appointment, tracking everything on your logistics. There's an additional email and telephone number here that you can reach out to with your questions. We especially recommend sending in emails that can help with the phone lines ever get clogged up. Additional websites for you as well. I'm also going to post a website in our chat it's a good resource. It's studyinthestates.dhs.gov. That's also a really good resource. It's got answered questions on everything from how to get an I-20 to understanding forms, what rules exist for F1 students, etc. So I'm going to leave the questions up as we move into our question and answer session.